Hello, my loves. Welcome to Pain to Joy. My name is Danielle Sutti, and I want to say thank you for being here today. How is your heart today? Shall we place a hand on our heart, another on our bellies, if that feels good to you? And I'm going to take a long, deep inhale into my heart space and down into my belly. And then I'm going to take an even longer exhale, releasing all that no longer serves and perhaps never did. Sinking into being here now. I was reflecting upon what I wanted to speak about. I was thinking about going back to episode 13. I had mentioned I would do a part 2. We are now on episode 26, and I haven't done the part 2. However, I was just outside bringing in some laundry, and I was thinking about my living situation. Until a couple of days ago, I had been living in a space with 5 other people, but 2 of them have since left, and I don't believe we've gotten any new roommates today. Usually if you get a new roommate in these student housing situations, it's on a Sunday, but I haven't heard any rustlings out there as I was napping and meditating. And I was thinking about how being in this living situation is making me better. And it's not me that's making me better, it is seeing how certain roommates go about certain things and how other roommates go about certain things. And I was speaking to one of my roommates, she's so lovely, and I told her last night, I said, when you were away, I thought about different things you did in the kitchen to keep it tidy, and it made me think, oh, I need to do that. Whereas if I was living at home on my own, it might not come to my mind to do something or to do it as often. And I was thinking about how living in this space, living with other humans, observing behaviors that I particularly enjoy and others that I do not, is making me better. It's making me a better roommate. It's making me a better human. And so I started to think as I was bringing in my laundry very carefully, because I dropped a sock last week, and when I asked the doorman if we could get it, he said, no, that space underneath where you hang your clothes is a private property on the main floor, and I don't have access. And I said, really? But my sock, we can see it there. And he said, nope, it's private property. I said, what about when the little kids come out there and they play soccer? He said, no, do you see right there? There's a wall. And I couldn't see because it's covered by trees, sort of a cement or rock wall that separates the 2 properties on the main level, on the garden level. And so I'm very careful now when I'm bringing things in off the line to hold it with dear life so that I'm not losing any more clothes to the private garden below. But as I was bringing them in, I was thinking, who makes you better? Who are the people in your life who make you better, who elevate you, who show you a new way, who teach you different ways of being? Who, when you are around them or in contact with them, you are just a much better version of yourself. Because I will tell you, I am thankful for my roommate, Laura. She, in a short time, has made me think a little bit more about how I'm tidying, the way I'm tidying, the frequency with which I might do something to make sure that all of the roommates are happy. And conversely, there have been roommates here and when I was in a student apartment a couple of years ago here in Florence where there were things that I didn't like, and it made me reflect on, don't do that. Make sure you don't do that. Because when we live in community, whether it's with our lover, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whether it's with our family, whether it's in a roommate situation, whether we're at work and it is with our colleagues, we live in community. So when we observe a behavior that someone does that doesn't feel good to us, then it allows us to think, oof, have I been doing that? Could I do better? I remember years ago, I was listening to an interview between Oprah and Daniel Pink. And I remember he said, when I go to bed at night, I ask myself, was I better today than I was yesterday? Was I better today than I was yesterday? And he said, oftentimes he was. But the odd time, if there was something that he could improve upon, if there's something that he could do better, he would lie in bed at night and reflect. And living with these other beautiful humans from, by the way, multiple countries. So we've had here in the last little while, France, Russia, Brazil, the United States, Mexico, and Holland. How wonderful. How wonderful to live with people from so many different places, and how wonderful to have an opportunity to reflect upon myself. Because when we see someone doing something that we don't like, that we don't enjoy, that we find is untoward or unkind, or maybe doesn't work for us, that's an opportunity for us to say, first of all, why is this getting under my skin? Why am I being triggered? Is this something that I do in my life? Is this something that I've done in the past? Is this something that I could work on? So I'm so thankful to be in this space. And I'm thankful for the situations with certain roommates that they were doing things that didn't work for me, because it allowed me to remember how to be better. And in my personal life, outside of living in Florence, I have so many amazing souls, friends and family members who lift me up, who make me better. It could be everything from someone who helps remind me to laugh more, someone who shares with me their struggles and reminds me the importance of being vulnerable, someone who asks for help, reminding me that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to continue to ask for help. When people choose to share their hearts with me and their stories and their lives and their struggles, it helps me remember the importance of being human and sharing my struggles. And yes, we can choose safe spaces to do that. I know that years ago when I participated in the Landmark Forum, I was in Vancouver. It was a 3-day program. And I remember I got on stage at one point and I shared and I said, I'm an oversharer. And the leader said, nope, you're an overtalker. And his point was that I didn't quite get in the moment, although I was in tears and I felt like I was sharing from my heart. There were a lot of superfluous things that I was saying. And I know that I talk a lot. I know that I use extra words when maybe they're not necessary. But he taught me in that moment and the moments afterwards that I was terrified of being vulnerable. Because when we're vulnerable, first we have to admit things to ourselves, truths about ourselves that maybe aren't so pretty, maybe aren't so beautiful, maybe aren't so shiny. And to be vulnerable means that we allow others to see us. And it has taken me quite a few years. So that journey with Landmark and my self-compassion journey would have started back in 2015, 2016, 2017. And I'm still working on it. But allowing ourselves to be vulnerable allows other people to be vulnerable. And again, in safe spaces where you feel safe to be held, safe to be heard, safe to be understood. So I am so thankful for all of the friends and the family in my life who have been here on my journey, who have shown me time and time again that it's okay to be vulnerable, who have shown me repeatedly when I open up my heart, when I share vulnerably in safe spaces with people who I know are capable of holding the space, capable of holding my heart, capable of holding my stories, that being vulnerable is a strength. That the more vulnerable we are, the more we open ourselves up for deep and true intimate connection. So thank you to every single one of you who have allowed me to share in this podcast. Because although I don't realize it at the time, there have been things that I've shared that are vulnerable. And I'm sure as time goes on, it'll get deeper and more intimate. And there will be things that maybe I will never share publicly, that I will keep to myself. But over these last few years, learning how to be a sharer and not just a talker has been a journey. And that journey comes along with learning to like myself more, learning to love myself more, looking in the mirror, telling myself before I go to bed at night, I love you, you're beautiful, you are loved. For years, I wrote on my bathroom mirrors in my home back in Calgary, affirmations, notes to myself, reminders that I was safe to be loved and supported, reminders that I am a beautiful person, reminders that it's okay to make mistakes, reminders to trust my gut. I had a Post-it note that was up there for a long time, trust your gut. And that comes into play over and over and over again because we can get so distracted by all of the things that are going on outside of us that we forget to tap into inside of us. What is our heart actually telling us? What is our mind actually telling us? What is our soul saying? This is particularly helpful in dating. I'm still working on it, but you can really, really want one thing. But if you really close your eyes, take some deep breaths and tap into, does this feel good? Does this feel good to me? Does this feel good to my heart, to my soul? Is this what's going to be best for my soul's and my heart's evolution? And coming down to that self-compassion piece, sometimes I make the choice to do something anyway, to have an experience. And sometimes that ends up being that I might break my own heart or I might waste my own time, because often we know. If we take the time to speak to ourselves, to love ourselves, to talk to ourselves, we know when something is right for us and when something isn't. And like I said, I'll be the first to admit, sometimes I like to have the experience. I met somebody a year ago who was so lovely and so wonderful, and I knew in my heart that he wasn't someone that I was meant to be with, for example, for many years, or it wasn't going to be like a boyfriend, girlfriend, long-term relationship, but I knew in my heart and soul I was meant to learn something from him. And perhaps he was meant to learn something from me. And I don't regret a moment of a beautiful relationship that we had that carried over a few months, over some distance. And in the end, it didn't end in the best way, but it ended exactly as it was meant to for my soul's growth. And in that moment, I was like, see, my soul was supposed to learn. And what did it learn? And part of it had to do with other people's capacity, being able to hold me, being able to love me. And that often comes down to, are we holding ourselves? Are we loving ourselves? Could we love ourselves more? And I continue to share about my self-compassion journey and my self-love journey because, as I discovered on last week's episode, loving myself more and having more compassion for myself has allowed me to trust myself, has allowed me to know that I've got me. But I still have to remember that even though I have myself and I can handle whatever comes, that I need to stop and breathe and tap into, does this feel good for me? Does it not? Why? Why not? What are the choices I'm making? Be intentional about my choices. And this may seem to not have connected all the dots since I started speaking at the beginning of this episode, but it does, because I've been having experiences lately where it could be as simple as somebody inviting me out for the evening, a new friend, and me really, really, really wanting to go, but remembering to stop, to tap in and ask myself, what do my body and brain need? What's going to feel best for my heart, for my brain, for my soul, for my body, for the things that I want to be accomplishing in the week to come. I had a friend yesterday invite me out, and I really, really wanted to go. It's a new friend. She's so lovely. I was so excited. And I was like, nope, you are too tuckered out. I had the immense fortune of having a friend here this week who I met last year in Sardinia. She came, we celebrated her birthday. I definitely did more than I usually would. And so I spent all of yesterday and almost all of today in bed. But I still thought when the friend reached out yesterday, well, maybe I could go out. I'm like, Danielle, you cannot. And so even though I love myself, and even though I trust myself, and even though I have so much compassion for myself, and even though I know what's best for me, I almost considered getting ready and going out last night. Now that could be the extrovert in me. It could be that it was beautiful weather. It could be that I had rested most of the day, but there's no way that I had the energy to go out. And it was a bit of a challenge. I stopped, I breathed, I paused. I shook off old ways of being because when somebody would ask me to do something or hang out, I really want to say yes. I don't want to disappoint them. But I was like, no, this isn't about that. This is about what is best for me. And in this moment, what is best for me is resting. What is best for me is taking care of myself so that I can do all the things that I want to do tomorrow and in the coming weeks. What's best for me is resting. And what's best doesn't always feel great in the moment because there's things that we want to do. In my case, it is physical, painful challenges. But in your case, it could be that you have people in your life, things in your life, could be work, could be children, could be a hobby that you love to do, but it consumes your time and energy that keeps you from doing other things that you want to do. But we have to make these choices. What's best, what's not, what feels good, what doesn't. And I will say that as somebody who was a people pleaser for a long time and someone who was in a codependent relationship for a long time, it has taken me years to unlearn those ways of being so that I can make the choices that are best for me. And for some of you, that might seem really simple. You might say, well, I know how to make decisions for myself. I know how to say yes. I know how to say no. I remember years ago when I was married, I literally couldn't say the word no. And sometimes when I tell this story, people think it's funny, but in hindsight, it was sad. My former husband, we were sitting there and he said to me, say it with me, like say no. Because he saw me overextending myself. He saw me never being able to say no. It was like an actual physical, I can still feel it in my heart space and in my solar plexus. I can feel it. It's like this suffocating feeling of not being able to say no. And so over the last few years, over and over again, I've had to practice saying yes to myself. And so last night when I said no to my friend, it's because I was saying yes to myself. And that can seem like a simple thing for so many people, but for me, that has been a challenging thing to learn. I love other people so much. And I think that idea of not wanting people to disapprove or not wanting to disappoint people. But the reality is, I wouldn't want somebody to hang out with me if they were super tired. I would want them to take care of themselves. I would want them to do what's best for them. So it's all been a learning and an unlearning. And I'm thankful for all of the people in my life who have been easygoing and kind and loving when I've said no. And ultimately, I know that it's not a big deal. But people who have accepted my no, people who have honored my no. Because there are people that might say, oh yeah, and they'll push. But the people who say, cool, awesome, wonderful. The friend yesterday, oh, good idea. You probably do need to rest. She's still going to go out. She's still going to have fun. Good for her. I hope she had the best time. But I did not have the energy, and I most certainly knew in my heart that I did not want to start my week being out late. On a practical note, what's a simple way that we can start to say yes to ourselves? One thing we can do is when someone asks us to do something, when someone invites us to go somewhere, when someone asks us for our services, maybe at work, or maybe you get invited to a conference, could be anything. The first thing is to stop, pause, breathe. How does it feel in your body when someone asked? Because in my brain, yeah, I want to do all the things. And sometimes in my heart, yes, I want to see all my friends. I want to do all the things. But if I stop and I pause and I breathe, and there's a little twinge of, oh, no. There's a little feeling of, I don't think so. Those are the twinges that we need to listen to. Because loving ourselves isn't just looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, isn't just hydrating enough and eating nourishing foods and making sure we're getting sunlight and fresh air and exercise and hanging out with the people that we love. Self-love, self-compassion, loving ourselves is also saying yes to ourselves and saying no to things that don't feel good in our bodies, even if we really want to, even if we wish we could. And I'm sure this will be a lifelong lesson for me as a lover of people, a lover of my friends and my family and new experiences. But it gets easier each time I stop, I pause, I put my hand on my chest, I breathe. and talk to yourself. Last night I was talking to myself. I was like, Danielle, obviously you can't go. And obviously deep down you don't want to go because you want to rest and you want to feel good this week. And you did a lot with your friend in the last few days, and that is wonderful and that is beautiful. And by the way, I'm so thankful. How amazing to meet a friend just over a year ago who has an Airbnb in Sardinia. We became friends. She then came here Tuesday and she left yesterday early, which was a Saturday. We celebrated her birthday together on Thursday. What a gift. And I also think the pause is important because you stop and go, what is most important to me? In this moment, what is important to you could be your family. What is most important to you could be your career. What is most important to you could be getting more sleep. So this self-love journey is going to change and shift over time. What is important to you right now might be different than it is a week from now. A week from now, I might say, yeah, I want to go out on Saturday night. I'll sleep the next day. And when I speak about my roommates and the ones who have made me better, it reminds me as well to have people around us who support us and lift us up when we make choices that honor us. Someone who celebrates you when you honor yourself. Someone who celebrates you and honors your no when it's an authentic no. And they're excited for you when it's a yes, whether that's hanging out with them, whether that's participating in some sort of project, new job, opportunity. This entire podcast is a gentle reminder to continue to connect with people who elevate you, who make you better, who remind you to reflect before you go to sleep at night and ask yourself, was I better today than I was yesterday? And what could I do tomorrow to be better, to be more loving, to be more kind, to be more helpful? What could I do tomorrow to love myself more? These are little tiny questions and little tiny shifts in our heart space, in our soul space, in our brains, in our bodies, where even as I share it with you now, it feels like love. It feels connected. It feels good. But it is coming straight from my heart and my soul. May we continue to surround ourselves with people who make us better. May we continue to choose people who choose us. May we take moments in our day to reflect on how we're being as human beings and how we could improve. Just a teeny bit every day. And me having had a roommate, for example, who never took out the garbage, who didn't buy toilet paper or hand soap or anything, makes me feel glad that I did and I can, and reminds me that I would want a roommate who would. And reminds me of the kind of roommate I want to be. And there are always going to be situations in life, people who get us, people who do all the things that we would. They're great cohabitators. They're wonderful people to travel with. And not everybody's going to be that for us. We're going to have close friends and family who might not be the best cohabitators. And thank goodness we probably don't have to live with them. And maybe we don't want to choose to travel with them. But we can learn from them. So here's to continuing to reflect on how we can be better, how we can continue to improve ourselves. And a gentle reminder, when you close your eyes tonight, before you go to sleep, how can I do better tomorrow in loving myself more, first and foremost? And how can I love others more? Please feel free to connect with me on Instagram at danielle.suddy or on Facebook, Danielle Suddy. You can email me old school, dksuddy@yahoo.ca, or direct message me. This podcast can be listened to on YouTube, Pain to Joy. I believe if you search Pain to Joy, Danielle Suddy, you will find me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the kind of human who wants to love yourself more, who wants to love others more, who wants to extend loving kindness to themselves and to others more and more and more. Let's all keep reflecting on how we can be better tomorrow than we were today. Sending so much love from my big heart to yours.